Hey guys, tonight we begin with a sky so white it swallows your breath. You're in the middle of the 13th century Mongolian steppe where the grass seems to go on forever and the wind knows your name. The air smells like frost and wool and a hint of horse dung, which, yes, is going to be your cologne for the next 12 hours. You wake up curled under sheepskins inside a round felt tent called a gur, and your nose is the first to know it's still below freezing outside. There's no snooze button here. Just a woman humming as she stokes the central hearth, the crackle of dried dung igniting into a reluctant flame. And the breath yours and everyone else's visible in the half-light like little ghosts drifting upward to the smoke hole. A chicken outside lets out what can only be described as a complaint. You groan. Then again, you're lucky. This isn't a wartime camp. No arrows whistling by, no flaming carts of doom. Just a normal day. But that doesn't mean it'll be easy. The average Mongol encampment was a marvel of efficiency and mobility, like a pop-up town built overnight and ready to disappear again by sundown. If you're not moving, you're preparing to move. And if you're preparing to move, you're also hauling, tying, folding, or being yelled at by someone named Batu. So, before you settle in and drift into this space, if you find yourself enjoying what you're hearing, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. But only if it truly feels worth it to you. Also, I'd love to know where you're listening from. And what time is it where you are? Drop a comment and let's compare longitudes. Now, dim the lights a little, maybe turn on a fan for a soft ambient hum, and let's begin tonight's journey gently together. You shift under the sheepskins and rub the sleep from your eyes. The gur around you creaks faintly as someone leans on it from the outside. That's normal here. Your dwelling is more than a tent. It's your house, your windbreaker, your bug repellent, and your portable hearth. Made of wooden lattice walls and thick layers of felt, it's warm, sturdy, and just small enough that you can't stretch out fully without kicking someone. Like your cousin, who is currently snoring like a malfunctioning bellows. You pull on a long tunic made of wool and cinch it with a leather belt. Outside, the cold hits you like a slap from a grumpy grandmother. You step out onto hard earth dusted with frost. Smoke from dozens of other jars rises into the pale morning sky. Chickens scratch at the ground, dogs bark in the distance, and somewhere, someone is yelling about a missing goat. Your first task? Fetch water. Which sounds simple until you realize it means walking 100 yards to a mostly frozen stream, using an axe to break the ice, and hauling 2 sloshing buckets back uphill. Your hands go numb almost instantly. On the bright side, you can't feel the blisters forming. Once inside, the hearth is warm again, and you cradle a bowl of steaming milk tea laced with salt and butter. It's oddly comforting, like soup made by someone who's never tasted soup before but tried really hard. The tea comes with a slab of dried cheese, so tough it might double as a whetstone. You nod politely. Around you, the rest of the family is rising. Your uncle is already fiddling with a saddle, your aunt is brushing her hair with a carved bone comb and humming a melody that might be centuries old. Children are arguing over boots. It's like a Mongol version of the morning rush minus electricity and with 400% more livestock. You're going to want to brace yourself for breakfast, because the first thing handed to you, still steaming in a leather pouch, is arag, otherwise known as fermented mare's milk. Yes, that's right, horse milk, bubbled into a frothy, mildly alcoholic drink that smells like yogurt having an existential crisis. And you're expected to drink it with both hands, while making eye contact. You raise the pouch to your lips, trying to hide the internal betrayal. The sour, this fizzy, is surprisingly not the worst thing you've ever tasted. Still, it feels like something you might use to clean a battlefield wound rather than start your day. Your host grins at your reaction. You give a tight smile back and do the only polite thing left. Take another sip. This is standard breakfast fare here on the Mongol steppe. Alongside arag, you might get a hunk of dried curd, arrowel, so dense it makes chewing feel like a contact sport. There's also milk skin, a thin, rubbery layer skimmed off boiled milk, served either fresh or dried. You pick it up, inspect it with suspicion, then take a bite. Tastes like smoky paper, but in a comforting way. If you're lucky, there's also bortsog, deep-fried dough pieces, vaguely sweet, often stored in a felt pouch beside the fire. That's your treat. That's your don't cry. This is breakfast consolation prize. You eat slowly, perched on a cushion inside the gur, while outside the camp begins to hum. Smoke curls from chimneys. Dogs bark half-heartedly. A neighbor argues with his daughter about the location of a missing yoke. Spoiler, it's right behind the goat. A cluster of children run past your doorway, shrieking with glee. their cheeks red from the cold. One of them pauses to peek in at you, then throws a pebble and bolts. You have apparently been adopted into some kind of step-based sibling rivalry. Congratulations. As you step outside, blinking into the light, you spot a woman carrying a wooden pail of milk. She gestures toward a tethered mare, where another is being milked. That's your next lesson. Milking a horse, which is both exactly like it sounds and completely unlike anything you've tried before. You approach the mare with care. She eyes you suspiciously. The milker, a teenage girl who could probably wrestle a wolf, hands you the pail and points. You crouch, you aim, you miss. Badly. Milk ends up on your sleeve, your boots, and somehow your ear. The girl cackles. The mare snorts. You bow out gracefully. Mongols prize their livestock not only for meat and milk, but for status, mobility, and survival. A single family might own dozens of animals: horses, sheep, goats, yaks, all providing something vital. Herding is as much a way of thinking as it is a job. If you can't tell a sick goat from a stubborn one, you won't last long out here. By mid-morning, the camp is in full swing. You help roll out hides for drying and hang ropes of meat over a rack. The wind carries the scent of smoke and fat across the encampment. Somewhere nearby, someone is singing. It's a low, throaty melody that warbles strangely on the wind. You stop to listen, heart slowing just a little. There's something timeless in that sound, like it's always been here, echoing through the grass. You wander to the edge of the camp and find a man scraping the inside of a sheep's stomach. He's making a bag for storing butter. Keeps cool in summer, he explains, as though this is a perfectly logical thing to be doing with entrails at 10 a.m. You nod slowly and back away. Historians still argue whether fermented mare's milk was more ceremonial than dietary. But from the look of things, it's just part of breakfast. Every day. No exceptions. Even the kids drink it like orange juice. Speaking of which, you hear a splash and a shriek. A child has dropped a ladle into a bucket of milk, splattering their tunic. They freeze, look around, and quickly rub it into the fabric like it's part of the design. Clever. You try walking off the meal, or at least walking somewhere that smells less like ruminant digestion. The ground crunches beneath your boots, hard-packed dirt mixed with scattered dung and the occasional stubborn weed. You pass a group of elders playing a bone game, shagai, made from the ankle bones of sheep. They gesture for you to join. You sit, awkwardly cross-legged, and watch them flick and toss the tiny bones, calling out results like horse or sheep. You get camel, which they assure you is neutral, then laugh at your confused expression. You lose 3 rounds in a row and are gifted a spare bone for luck. You're not sure if that's sincere or a gentle warning. By now, your hands are dry and cracking from the wind. You rub them together and tuck them under your sleeves. It's not even noon, and you already feel like you've lived an entire week. There's a surprising rhythm to this life, though. You don't set appointments, you follow the sun. You don't eat by the clock. You eat when the yak's done being temperamental. You're starting to understand something quietly profound. Time moves differently here. It's tethered to animals, to seasons, to whether or not the smoke escapes the gur properly today. You sit down on a log and sip from a second pouch of arag. Still sour, still weirdly fizzy. But this time, you don't grimace. Outside again, you see a boy, maybe 6 years old, already riding a pony bareback and swinging a stick like a whip. This is normal. Mongol children learn to ride almost before they can walk. Horses are everything here. Transportation, heat source, wartime partner, and occasional food. Yes, that's awkward when your favorite pet is suddenly dinner, but pragmatism wins on the steppe. A man rides past on a tawny horse, wrapped in furs, carrying a falcon on his gloved arm. He nods at you. That's Bector, the hunter. He'll be out till dusk looking for foxes and hares, maybe a marmot if it's a lucky day. The bird on his arm shifts and clicks its beak, unimpressed with your blanket hair look. You help your cousin stack bundles of kindling beside the tent and check the ropes on the GR. A loose rope means a sagging roof, and a sagging roof means waking up with frostbite or, worse, being the reason your entire family gets snowed on in their sleep. No pressure. And then there's the latrine, which is wherever you walk far enough that no one can see you. Bring a stick to dig a hole. Bring two if you're feeling fancy. In this world, everything is communal. You share your food, your space, even your chores. If one family suffers, everyone pitches in. If one person slacks off, well, the consequences are swift and usually involve a lot of shouting. You finally pause at the edge of the camp, watching smoke rise into the sky. The sun is still low, casting long shadows across the steppe. In the distance, you can just make out the silhouettes of other jers and maybe a caravan moving slowly across the horizon. You take a deep breath. It smells like winter and burnt fat and leather. It smells like survival. Historians still argue whether the Mongol nomadic lifestyle was more liberating or brutalizing. But you know one thing for sure, it's definitely not boring. You're starting to feel it now, that particular kind of tired that comes from doing 100 small, strange things before most modern people have even opened their phone. But there's no time to pause. A young boy with a face full of freckles and a braid down his back tugs your sleeve and points with great urgency. A goat is loose. This is not a metaphor. That goat is galloping straight through the middle of the encampment like it just stole state secrets. And behind it, shouting, limping, flapping his arms like a windmill having a meltdown, is an elderly man you assume is the owner. You make the fatal mistake of making eye contact. He thrusts a rope into your hands and yells something unintelligible, but the message is clear: congratulations. You're now on Team Goat. So you chase it. You weave between yurts, past hanging meat racks, and startled toddlers while the goat expertly dodges every obstacle. It leaps over a laundry line, slams into a stack of firewood, and finally comes to a stop right in front of the sacred family hearth of a different tent, where it calmly begins chewing on someone's ceremonial felt boots. A woman storms out, hurls a ladle at it, and glares at you like this is all your fault. The goat bolts again. You lunge, tackle, and end up face down in a pile of half-dried yak skins. Success, technically. The old man arrives, wheezing but triumphant, and collects the rope without a word. You expect a thank you. He hands you a piece of jerky instead. It tastes like gratitude, or maybe just smokes in you. You dust yourself off and glance around. The encampment is now fully awake, buzzing with activity. Jers stretch out in every direction, forming a circle or several depending on the size of the group. Mongol camps weren't just thrown together. They followed clear patterns, family groups near the center, livestock on the fringes, guards and scouts beyond that. The Khansgur, when he traveled with the horde, stood apart and radiated authority with its sheer scale and ornamentation. Gold-stitched felt, colored banners. It wasn't just a tent, it was a political statement with a roof. You walk toward the center of camp now, stepping over the worn tracks of hooves and boots. You pass women kneading dough for flatbreads and older children sewing saddlebags with incredible speed. A young man tunes a two-stringed instrument, probably a morin kuur or horsehead fiddle, its melancholic notes floating over the camp like mist. In front of you now is your neighbor's gur, larger than yours, clearly better insulated, and judging by the guards posted outside, more important. This is where you'll spend the next hour helping with what you assumed was a routine delivery. Spoiler, it's not. Inside, a court clerk is reading aloud messages from a distant outpost. Mongol communication was astonishingly fast for its time, thanks to the YAM system, stations of riders and fresh horses stretching across the empire like a proto-postal network. Today's messages? One concerns a merchant caravan delayed by flooding. Another, a report of bandit sightings near the Sirdaria. You don't understand every word, the dialect shifts slightly with every region, but you get the gist. Information here travels fast. Often faster than the people themselves. You're handed a tray of offerings to place before the hearth, pieces of fat, a pinch of milk, a whisper of salt. The offerings are for Tungri, the sky god. Every family honors the spirits of sky, earth, and ancestor. It's not dogma, it's survival. If the gods are angry, storms roll in. Or worse, horses vanish. That's not superstition. That's Tuesday. Someone tosses you a jug and gestures toward a gathering near the outer ring. You follow, jug sloshing, until you reach a makeshift stall where a woman is ladling out boiled meat broth. You stand in line, trying not to step on a dog sleeping in the mud. It opens one eye. You apologize. The dog does not forgive. You sip the broth. It's rich, a little oily, and tastes like boiled everything. It warms your stomach and fogs your vision for a second. Is that the steam or early-stage meat coma? No one knows. Around you, conversation hums. Traders talk routes. A scout gestures with his hands, miming hills and rivers. Someone else gossips about a wedding that allegedly ended in 3 broken ribs, 2 runaway camels, and a poetry duel. Honestly, you'd watch that Netflix series. You step away and watch the chairs sway slightly with the breeze. Some are decorated with dyed felt reds, blues, ochres. Each family has its own patterns passed down through generations. These aren't just dwellings. They're identities stitched and smoked into every corner. Historians still argue whether the tight structure of Mongol encampments was a result of military necessity or deep-rooted cultural logic. Probably both. When your home moves every few weeks, you'd better have a system. As you return toward your own tent, a boy rides past on a shaggy pony no bigger than a llama, his hair whipping in the wind. He whistles and the horse spins so fast it nearly unseats him. He laughs. You sigh. You are clearly not built for this. But for today, at least, you're part of it. A goat-wrangling, air-egg-sipping, bone-game-losing honorary Mongol. And honestly, you're starting to get into it. You're standing still now, but nothing around you is. Horses clop past with saddle bundles tied in neat stacks. Children sprint between tents, dodging each other with practiced agility. A herd of sheep stirs just beyond the camp boundary, guided by sharp whistles and the occasional bark from a lean, long-legged dog that looks like it hasn't slept in 3 generations. Then you see it, the golden gur. At first glance, it's just another yurt, round, domed, squat. But as you approach, it becomes clear that this one is different. For one, it gleams. Not like it's been polished, but like the very felt has been stitched from sunbeams. The doorframe is painted red and blue with gold leaf patterns curling around the edges. 2 guards stand outside in layered leather armor, their bows slung across their backs, their expressions unwavering in a way that makes you suddenly question every choice that brought you here. This is no ordinary tent. It belongs to a Noyan, a high-ranking noble, or maybe even someone closer to the Khan himself. You've heard whispers that these golden jairs were not just status symbols, but mobile palaces. Fully furnished, ornately decorated, and large enough inside to make your own humble dwelling look like a glorified storage shed. You're waved forward by a stocky man with a long black beard and an eagle-feathered cap. He hands you a folded felt mat, a jug of salted curds, and a single instruction: deliver inside. Bow. That's it. You gulp. Inside, the light shifts. Diffused through dyed wool panels, the air glows in honey tones. Silk hangings flutter faintly with each movement. A massive brazier radiates heat, surrounded by low tables stacked with scrolls, maps, dishes of dried fruits, and oddly enough, carved wooden figurines of tigers and eagles. The scent in here isn't smoke and sweat like everywhere else. It's incense. Spiced and earthy. A man in dark robes nods as you place the jug on the mat and bow. You don't linger. You don't speak. You definitely don't ask why someone needs 5 different types of fermented dairy. You step back into the daylight, blinking. And that's when you hear it: music. Not the humming from before or the plucked strings of the morinkur. This is something more elaborate. A trio of musicians has gathered near the Khan's tent, 2 with flutes, 1 with a bowed instrument that sings like a bird mid-dream. You sit cross-legged nearby, pretending to rest your legs, but really you're listening. The song undulates gently. It sounds like snow falling or river water under ice. The kind of music that makes you feel like you've always known it, even though you've never heard it before. Next to you, an old woman murmurs a name: Tofshur, another traditional Mongol instrument. She explains that these songs tell stories of battles won, of ancestors lost, of lands so far west you'd fall off the world trying to reach them. She says some melodies are meant to summon luck. Others are only sung during eclipses. And some, the ones with the long minor notes, are meant to make spirits cry. Historians still argue whether Mongol music was primarily ritualistic or entertainment. But in this moment, you feel both possibilities humming in your chest. Lunchtime approaches. But meals aren't announced, they're smelled. You follow your nose toward a group of women gathered around a boiling pot suspended over an open fire. Inside, chunks of meat, root vegetables, a few suspiciously floating bones, and herbs so strong you feel your sinuses loosen just standing nearby. You're handed a shallow wooden bowl and a wide spoon. The soup is thick and hot and tastes like something between stew and rainwater boiled with ambition. You slurp it down as best you can without burning your tongue. As you eat, a small girl watches you curiously. She reaches over and pokes your boot, then giggles. You offer her a bit of your dried bread. She sniffs it, accepts it solemnly, and then runs off shouting something you're pretty sure translates to "foreigner eats like an ox." You decide to take that as a compliment. Just then, a ripple runs through the encampment. Not panic, more like a wave of readiness. People begin securing ropes, folding mats, rolling bundles. The horses, previously grazing, are gathered and tied. The Khan, it seems, is on the move. This is a drill, maybe. Or maybe it's real. The Mongol horde didn't believe in wasting time. They could break down an entire camp in under an hour and be galloping across the steppe with no trace left behind. A feat that still impresses military historians today. You spring into action, helping where you can. You assist a boy as he detaches the felt cover from a GER. The roof poles come down next, then the lattice walls, all in a practiced rhythm. The felt is folded tight and strapped to a camel's back. The wooden frame is tied to another. The hearth ashes are carefully scattered. Even the goats seem to know their cue. You step back to take in the sight, dozens of families disassembling their lives like a traveling circus of survival. Organized chaos. Dust rising. Laughter. A child shrieking with delight as he nearly gets trampled by his own ox. The wind picks up and scatters the campfire smoke. In the distance, you hear hooves striking the earth like a rolling drumbeat. Scouts returning. The sun is high now. Shadows are short. Your stomach, against all odds, still wants more soup. But first, you'll need to finish tying your own bundle of gear. Because whether it's a drill or the real thing, this caravan moves with or without you. Your hands are red from rope burn, your shoulders sore from hoisting wood bundles, and your boots now carry about half the Mongolian steppe in mud form. But somehow everything's packed. The entire ger collapsed like a pop-up puzzle in reverse. What was once a snug little home, filled with firelight and goat interruptions, is now strapped neatly onto the back of a huffing camel who, by the way, keeps turning to glare at you like it knows you did something wrong. The pace picks up quickly. There's no final sweep or tearful goodbyes. The horde doesn't linger. This is not a sentimental culture, at least not in public. You fall into step with the others as the camp begins its slow, methodical exodus, hundreds of people, animals, carts, and makeshift structures moving like a well-trained organism across the plains. You're given a lead rope for a yak, which despite its shaggy, adorable exterior, walks like it's actively plotting your downfall. It stops every few feet, snorts theatrically, and once tries to sit down mid-hill. The boy next to you snickers. His own yak trots obediently ahead like it's auditioning for a parade. You look up. The horizon seems impossibly far. That's part of the trick, you're realizing. Distance isn't just a measurement here, it's a mindset. You don't go to a place. You simply move until the place becomes here. It's a surreal experience, watching the land change without any landmarks to measure progress. Rolling grasslands stretch in all directions. A low ridge in the distance marks the next grazing area, but it could just as easily be another 3 hours away. The Mongols don't use maps like you do. They read the wind, the sun, the growth of the grass. You try to do the same, squinting at the sky like it might give you directions. It doesn't. After a while, the caravan stops near a thin ribbon of stream. Water, shade, and just enough elevation to catch a breeze, perfect for a temporary halt. People begin unpacking only what's necessary. Blankets, kettles, water skins. No building this time. Just a pause. You sit cross-legged on a patch of grass, knees cracking audibly, and accept a bowl of dried meat strips. It's tough, smoky, and tastes like it used to be a boot. Still, it's fuel. You chew in silence, watching as the elders form a loose circle around a pot of boiling tea. Stories begin, low murmurs in a rhythm that sounds almost like poetry. A man with graying hair and a deep scar across his cheek gestures for you to join. He speaks slowly, letting you catch a word or two. He's telling the story of a time he outran a Chinese patrol with nothing but a half-lame pony and a pouch of arag. The punchline involves a pit trap and someone's underpants, which sends the entire circle into gentle cackles. As the sun tilts westward, preparations begin again. This time, you're assigned to help with the horses. You approach one cautiously. It eyes you like it knows what happened with the goat. Fair. You stroke its neck and feed it a lump of salt. It chews thoughtfully, then allows you to lift its reins. Progress. You help brush its coat, checking for burrs and ticks, while another youth tightens the saddle girth. Mongol saddles are high, with a prominent front and rear to give stability during long rides and sudden turns. These aren't the soft, floppy saddles of the West. They're tools of war, of conquest, of survival. And yet, they're beautiful. The leather is etched with swirling designs. Some are dyed red, some blue. Small silver discs glint at the corners. You touch one lightly and wonder how many cities this horse has ridden past. Historians still debate how much of Mongol military success was due to strategy versus raw horsepower, literally. But out here, with a mountain range far off in the distance and the wind pressing gently at your back, it's hard to ignore the animal's central role. You climb onto a pony. Not ride it, just sit. Instantly, you understand why Mongol children start young. This isn't a saddle so much as a leather wedge. The stirrups sit higher than you're used to, your knees bent tight, and the entire horse keeps shifting under you like it knows you're not committed. Still, you stay upright for a full 5 minutes. You consider that a personal triumph. Nearby, a group of riders practice mounted archery. You watch, mesmerized, as one woman looses an arrow while hanging sideways off her galloping pony. The arrow arcs and slams into a wooden target with a solid thwack. She whoops in delight and gallops off again, braid trailing like a banner. No one cheers. No applause. Just another Tuesday. You dismount awkwardly and stagger back to camp. Your legs feel like they've been replaced with someone else's, someone shorter and definitely less coordinated. By nightfall, the group stops again. This time for real. Fires are built. Blankets unrolled. Meat roasted over slow embers. There's laughter, soft conversation, the clink of bowls, the shuffle of tired feet. You stretch out beside a warm rock and gaze up. The stars are already out, sprinkled across the indigo sky like silver grains spilled from a bag. There's no light pollution here. Just the hush of wind, the occasional grunt of a goat, and the rhythmic breathing of your fellow travelers. A shaman passes by. He carries a small drum and a fan of feathers. He stops, offers you a glance, and says something you don't understand. Then he moves on, humming a tune that sounds older than language. You pull your cloak tighter and close your eyes. Today you packed a home, chased a goat, rode a horse, ate questionable meat, and somehow became part of a society that could vanish overnight without leaving a trace. You've survived one full day with the Mongol horde. And tomorrow? It starts again. You wake to hooves. Not stomping, not rushing, just the steady thump of movement. Somewhere in the haze of sleep and saddle soreness, your brain registers the sound of horses shifting weight, stamping softly, and breathing in thick puffs that fog the cool morning air. It's not even light yet. The sky is that pre-dawn blue-gray, like a watercolor left unfinished. Someone stokes a fire nearby. You smell ash, sweat, and broth that's been simmering since midnight. Your breath makes a cloud as you sit up, rubbing your shoulder, which appears to have spent the night in negotiation with a rock. You're already dressed, more or less Mongol-style sleep doesn't involve pajamas or turn-down service. It's you, your tunic, a woolen cloak, and the great outdoors. Luxury here is having a blanket that doesn't smell like horse. There's a quiet urgency to the camp now. No shouting, just movement. A few jars are being rebuilt, not many, just enough to restock and recover. This is a partial stop, a regroup. While most of the caravan rests, a select group is gearing up for something more specific. You hear the word nurge whispered from several mouths. A hunt, and not just a casual afternoon rabbit chase. A nurge was a full-scale military operation disguised as hunting. Riders form a great circle, sometimes miles across, and slowly close in, flushing game toward the center. It's organized, efficient, and deadly like everything else the Mongol Empire perfected. But it wasn't just about meat. It was practice. For war. For discipline. For chasing down enemies with the same precision you'd use for deer. You, however, are not invited to the hunt. Probably for the best. You saw how you handled goat chasing. Instead, you're assigned to the second most interesting duty, horse training. Specifically, helping a group of children who are somehow better at this than most grown adults you've met. You meet them near the temporary corral, which is made of rope, stakes, and sheer willpower. The horses inside are shaggy, muscular, and clearly smarter than they look. A girl no older than 8 climbs onto one bareback, taps its side, and takes off like a wind spirit. You don't even see a saddle. She balances with a kind of casual arrogance, one hand holding a small bow, the other drawing an arrow as the pony gallops over uneven ground. She hits a tree stump from 30 yards. You clap before you can stop yourself. She doesn't even look at you. You're handed a grooming comb and pointed toward a pony that seems to be giving you side-eye. It's muddy, stubborn, and has a mane like a rat's nest. You get to work. Brush, yank, dodge a tail swat. Repeat. Eventually, you both come to an agreement. You'll be gentle, and it'll stop trying to nibble your wrist. Nearby, an older boy demonstrates a technique you've never seen before. He whistles a rising note, and the pony lowers its head. He knows the song, the boy says, as if explaining how bread works. You try whistling. The horse blinks, then sneezes on your boots. Training here starts early. Children learn to ride almost as soon as they walk. And not just ride, shoot, wrestle, herd. These are the future scouts and warriors of the Empire. Your role today is less teacher, more mildly amusing foreign distraction. Still, they're patient with you. One girl offers you a strip of jerky. It's salter than the ocean and tough as destiny, but you smile and chew it anyway. After grooming comes saddling. You help adjust straps and check stirrups. Mongol saddles are high-backed and firm, allowing riders to shoot while galloping at full speed. They're functional, not cozy. The kids tie knots with practiced ease, laughing when you fumble a buckle. You're a living lesson. See, this is why we practice. Historians still debate whether these training sessions were formalized or just passed down through repetition. But out here, it doesn't feel like school. It feels like breathing. Riding is life. Horses are not just animals, they're freedom, firepower, and furniture all rolled into one. A whistle sounds. Break time. Everyone drops what they're doing and races toward a central blanket spread with snacks. Dried berries, chunks of cheese, bits of leftover stew in wooden bowls. You hesitate. A boy pats the blanket beside him and says something that might be come sit or watch the goat behind you. Either way, you sit. You eat slowly, learning again that chewing in Mongolia is often an act of courage. The cheese is so hard you suspect it could be used in minor dentistry. You break off a piece, suck on it for a few minutes, and finally manage to soften the edge. Then comes the arag again. A different batch. This one smells like it was brewed in a thunderstorm. But you've come this far, so you drink. You cough. The kids cheer. You lean back on your elbows, sun climbing higher now, casting sharp shadows over the land. In the distance, you see the hunting party returning, small dots on the ridge growing larger with each minute. They've got something slung between two horses. Probably deer. Maybe boar. Could be something weirder. The kids jump to their feet, ready to help. You rise too, stretching muscles you didn't know existed. The riders approach at a controlled trot, hooves thudding like slow applause. One man lifts a bundle and tosses it to the ground. It's a marmot. The kids swarm like bees. Not to pet it, but to prepare it. Because in a few hours, that marmot will be dinner. You've heard of this dish, budog. The marmot will be cleaned, stuffed with hot rocks, and roasted from the inside out. Like a pressure cooker, if pressure cookers involved pelts and possibly soot poisoning. You offer to help. The kids look at each other and shrug. You take that as a yes. While the marmot is being prepped, you help gather firewood, heat stones, and watch as one older boy expertly stitches the marmot shut like a surgeon who's been doing this since preschool. It's weirdly impressive. Historians still argue whether budog was a celebratory food or just what we do when we catch a marmot. But either way, it's on tonight's menu. And your job now? Guard the fire. Not the glamorous part, but vital. Mostly because the camp dog has a known marmot stealing record. You sit cross-legged again, the fire warm at your knees, the pony you brushed earlier now curled beside you like a giant, wheezy dog. The sun dips lower, and the smell of marmot begins to change your definition of hunger. You've been warned. Marmot night is not for the faint of stomach or nose. The smell hits you first. Rich, greasy, faintly smoky, and with just the tiniest top note of wild rodent that once lived in a burrow. But weirdly, it's not unpleasant. In fact, your mouth waters. The children begin pacing like tiny wolves. Even the dog, usually so indifferent, now stares with military focus at the fire pit. The budog is nearly done. After being stuffed with hot stones and stitched shut, the marmot was placed inside the fire to cook from the inside out. The sizzling has slowed. The skin has crisped. The steam, when it escapes, smells like someone barbecued an entire mountain range. A man lifts the marmot with tongs made from two polished antlers. He pokes it gently. The skin hisses. He nods. A good sign, apparently. There's no ceremonial plating. No garnish. The budog is plopped onto a piece of hide and a knife is passed around. People gather in a loose circle, sleeves rolled up, eyes gleaming. You wait your turn. When it's handed to you, your portion is unclear. You just sort of slice where there's room. Your fingers brush something hot and slick and you tug until a strip of meat pulls free. It's dark, oily, and smells strongly of sagebrush and smoke. You bite. It's gamey. It's chewy. And it is undeniably meat. You chew, and swallow. Not bad. Not good, but not bad. Someone offers you a second helping. You smile, hand raised politely, and say no thanks in your best effort at the local dialect. You may have actually said more goat please, but it gets the message across. As the meal winds down, someone brings out a bottle of something even stronger than arag. You're told it's distilled from milk. You take one cautious sip and feel your entire nervous system whisper, let's not do that again. The fire burns low. Bellies are full. The group begins to sing, a slow, rhythmic chant, each verse echoing off the hills. It's not in any language you recognize. The notes rise and fall in a wave, soft and strange, like they're meant more for the stars than for you. Someone pulls out a bow and begins stringing it. This isn't music anymore. It's practice time. Archery isn't a hobby here. It's a way of life. Mongol warriors were famous for firing arrows accurately at full gallop, sometimes backwards, sometimes sideways, sometimes while riding on two horses at once. You watch now as a man takes aim at a distant target. a leather bag propped up on a rock. He draws, releases, and hits it dead center. You try not to audibly say, "Wow." You fail. He grins. A boy hands you a bow. It's small, carved from layers of horn, sinew, and wood typical of the recurved design favored by the Mongols. You notch an arrow aimed toward a reasonably non-living rock and fire. The arrow skitters off the ground about 20 feet short. Everyone claps anyway. It's unclear whether this is encouragement or sarcasm. Either way, you bow. You practice a few more shots. One lands in a bush. One almost hits the pot where someone is still scrubbing marmot residue. Eventually, one actually hits the target. Or at least the rock near the target. Close enough that you allow yourself a small mental victory lap. As night deepens, more stories unfold. You hear tales of the great Khan, Genghis himself, who could supposedly shoot a bird mid-flight without blinking. Historians still argue whether that's literal or just national myth-making. You decide it doesn't really matter. The people telling the stories believe it. And here, belief holds power. The old woman who fed you earlier beckons you to her blanket. She unwraps a cloth bundle and shows you something small and curved. A tiny carved figure of a horse, barely the size of your thumb. She presses it into your hand and closes your fingers around it. For luck, she says in a whispery mix of Mongol and gesture. You nod, humbled, and tuck it into your belt. Later, under the open stars, a man walks around the camp smudging smoke from burning juniper. You catch the scent, piney, almost sweet, and realize it's meant to cleanse bad spirits. Or at least bad dreams. You're handed a blanket and find a soft patch of grass near the fire. A baby goat curls next to you like a warm loaf of bread. Someone is playing the Morinkur again, and this time the melody is so slow, so aching, you feel your eyelids fall without your permission. But just as you drift off, a final thought surfaces. This is a culture where everything serves at least 3 purposes. A horse is transport, food, heat. A tent is shelter, shrine, command center. A child is not just a learner, but a warrior in training, a herder, an archer, a future. And you? You're starting to realize you're not just observing anymore. You're participating. Tomorrow, you'll learn about councils where the horde plans its next move. But for now, you sleep beneath a sky so full of stars it looks like it might spill. When you wake, the fire has burned down to embers. The goat is gone, and there's a faint dusting of frost on your boots. The steppe is eerily quiet. No clanking pots, no bleating animals, just the low sigh of wind brushing the grass like a giant broom. You sit up, stretch, and immediately regret sleeping with your legs at that angle. Everything below your waist feels like it belongs to someone else now. There's motion in the distance, not frantic, but purposeful. Riders, 5 of them, circling in from opposite directions toward the main cluster of jares. They aren't galloping, but there's a swiftness to their pace. Scouts, maybe, or messengers, or something else. Your stomach, ever the realist, reminds you that you haven't eaten anything that didn't involve marmot since yesterday. You stand and wander toward the kettle area where a few early risers are boiling milk. One hands you a bowl without speaking. It's warm, rich, and surprisingly sweet today. Maybe someone added a pinch of something extra. You nod in thanks and drink it like you've been doing this for years. You don't get far before a young man in a fur-trimmed tunic motions you over. He's barefoot, humming, and holding what looks like a feather fan. Not the glamorous kind. This one is rugged, an object that's seen a lot of sky, dirt, and people. You're about to ask what he wants when he raises a hand, not to shush you, but to pause you. He lowers the fan and begins to chant. Quietly, not at you exactly, more like near you, around you. He's a bow, a shaman, and apparently it's your turn. He places a wooden bowl at your feet, sprinkles dried herbs into it, and lights them with a glowing coal. Instantly, the smoke rises in thin, twisting streams. He fans it gently toward you. You resist the urge to sneeze. You've wandered into a morning blessing, or maybe a soul checkup. The line between the two is blurry in Mongol culture. Shamanism here isn't just about rituals. It's practical, everyday medicine. It's fortune-telling. It's conflict resolution. And sometimes it's just a good excuse to wave feathers at people and mutter. The bow circles you once, twice. He taps your shoulder lightly, then gestures toward the east. You look. Nothing. Just the grass and the rising sun. He nods as though you've understood something profound. You decide not to ask. Best not to ruin the mystery. Historians still argue whether Mongol shamanic practices were truly religious, or simply systems of control wrapped in mysticism. But out here, it doesn't feel like ceremony for ceremony's sake. It feels lived in. It's not a performance. It's maintenance for the body, for the spirit, for the camp's invisible balance. You leave the smoke still clinging to your clothes and join a group gathering near a larger GR. Not the cons, but close. There's something official about it. The guards outside wear slightly more polished armor. A thin standard waves gently above the doorway. You duck in, curious. Inside, the air is hushed, but charged. A dozen men and women sit in a loose circle on cushions, some cross-legged, some leaning on walking sticks. At the center, a leather map spread wide. Stones mark locations. Small wooden figures, horses, tents, what might be rivers, dot the surface. This is a Kuriltai, a council, and you've just stumbled into Mongol decision-making in action. They're not voting, they're debating, which in Mongol terms involves short bursts of speech, long silences, and the occasional chuckle when someone makes a sharp observation. They talk about water routes, about a distant clan causing trouble, about whether it's worth shifting the herd east before the grass thins too much. You sit quietly in the corner, barely breathing. Occasionally someone glances your way, but no one asks you to leave. Decisions in Mongol society weren't made by decree, at least not always. Even Genghis Khan held Kuriltai to gain consensus from nobles before major moves. It wasn't democracy, but it wasn't dictatorship either. More like consultation with teeth. One man gestures at the map and says something that causes everyone to pause. He lifts a figurine and sets it down farther north. Murmurs follow. You don't catch the words, but you understand the weight. Something's happening out there. Something worth considering. Eventually, the council breaks. People file out in twos and threes, still murmuring. You slip outside and inhale deeply. The day has warmed slightly. The frost is gone. And in the far distance, a new line of smoke rises from behind a hill. That afternoon, you help with bow repair. Arrows need fletching. Strings need retightening. You sit beside an older man who doesn't speak much, but works with quiet efficiency. He hands you a bundle of goose feathers and a pot of glue made from boiled animal hide. You get to work, trying not to glue your fingers together. He watches your progress, then grunts approvingly. You allow yourself a small, smug smile. Nearby, a teenager demonstrates a trick shot. She looses 3 arrows in quick succession, the last one while her pony is mid-turn. They all hit within inches of each other. Someone offers her a strip of bortsog in tribute. She accepts like a queen. You learn the phrase Burkhan Urshug, meaning, may God bless you. It's used casually, often, and with little ceremony. You say it a few times to the children, who giggle at your pronunciation but say it back with surprising tenderness. As the sun sinks again, the horizon flares gold. Campfires crackle. You sip tea brewed with herbs that smell like citrus and soil. You're not tired exactly, but you are full, in the way that only long, strange days can make you feel. Someone plays the Morin Kur again, this time a faster tune. Others hum along. Laughter carries through the twilight. You lean back on your elbows, staring at the sky. Somewhere out there, the empire expands. But here, tonight, it's enough to just sit. Just breathe. Just be. The morning greets you not with a sunrise, but with the smell of meat fat frying in an iron pan and the sound of someone vigorously arguing with a yak. You open your eyes slowly. You're on your back, wrapped in your blanket like an overcooked dumpling, and there's a curious buzzing in your ears. No, wait. That's actual buzzing. A fly is examining your nostril with the kind of ambition usually reserved for doctoral research. You sit up too quickly and immediately regret it. Everything aches. Your back, your legs, your teeth. Somehow your teeth are tired. But there's no time to feel sorry for yourself. You're already being handed a bowl. Breakfast, once again, is simple. Chunks of mutton, a thin broth flavored with onions and garlic, and a round of bortsog that's slightly burned but still better than most of the energy bars you've had back home. You eat it while sitting on an overturned saddle watching the day unfold. Today, you're told, is about restocking and reshoeing, which sounds like a good excuse to nap until you learn it means helping check horses' hooves and swap out worn iron shoes. You're not even sure what a horseshoe looks like up close, but you're about to become an expert. The horses are lined up along a makeshift corral. The farrier, a tall man with arms like braided rope and a deep scar across his brow, motions for you to help hold the next pony still. The animal is patient for now. You stroke its neck and mutter encouragement while the farrier inspects the hooves with a practiced eye. He points. The shoe is loose. You nod, pretending you understand what that means. Then, with alarming speed, he produces a hammer, a curved blade, and something that looks like a pair of medieval salad tongs. Before you can back away, he's pried the shoe off and started filing the hoof. The smell hits you. It's hot, pungent, and vaguely metallic, like scorched hair and wet iron. You try not to gag. The pony seems completely unconcerned. The process is methodical. Scrape, fit, burn, hammer. And you? You just hold the rope and pray this horse is feeling generous. Eventually, the job's done. The pony trots away with a fresh clink to its step. You wipe your hands on your tunic and try to ignore the fact that they're now covered in something best left unidentified. You take a break near a fire pit and sip more salty tea. The older woman who gifted you the horse talisman yesterday sits nearby, mending a saddlebag with thick sinew thread. She looks up and gestures for you to sit. She tells you in slow, deliberate Mongolian that her people believe in 3 souls: the breath soul, which leaves during dreams, the body soul, which stays with the bones, and the shadow soul, which watches over the others. You ask which one gets hungry first. She doesn't laugh, but her eyes twinkle. Historians still argue whether these soul beliefs were symbolic or literal. But here, it's all just life. Practical, poetic, messy, sacred life. Later that afternoon, you're invited to join the wool tent crew. Chairs need maintenance. The felt insulation wears thin, especially around the smoke hole and doorway. You work alongside 2 teenage girls who show you how to roll raw wool, soak it, and then stomp it flat using a kind of dance step pattern that's equal parts cardio workout and floor routine. You stomp. You twirl. You nearly fall into the rinse basin. The girls howl with laughter. When the felt is finally rolled and drying in the sun, someone begins playing a game nearby, Shigai again, the sheep anklebone game. But this time with a twist. The bones are thrown not just for sport, but for divination. Which bone lands on which side, horse, sheep, camel, goat, can mean everything from good luck is coming to maybe don't mount that horse tomorrow. Your throw lands you camel again. Apparently, you are destined for steadiness and stubbornness. Sounds about right. As the sun lowers, you spot the Khan's standard fluttering above the camp once more. He hasn't left, just observed from a distance. His tent, gilded and guarded, sits at a respectful remove, but close enough that people lower their voices when speaking about him. You're told he's meeting envoys from the west. Possibly Persians. Possibly Russians. Maybe both. You don't know the politics, and honestly, no one expects you to. But you do see the food preparations. They're elaborate. Fires are built taller. Pots are cleaned until they shine. Someone sharpens a dozen knives. Meat is cut precisely into sections you've never seen sorted so meticulously. This isn't a casual meal. This is a demonstration. Mongols don't build marble palaces, but they know how to project power. Through precision. Through presence. Through perfectly carved lamb. You won't be part of that dinner. But later, scraps will be shared. As the stars reappear, you're handed a skewer of grilled meat with a sprinkle of crushed wild garlic. It's the best thing you've tasted since the marmot, actually. Someone begins a story by the fire, half in song, half in chant. It's about a man who turned into a falcon and flew to the moon to retrieve a lost arrow. You don't catch every word, but it doesn't matter. You close your eyes. The air is cool. The stars sharp. Your muscles ache, your lips are chapped, and your hair is now permanently wind-sculpted. But when you breathe, it's deep. Full. You are still here, and that means something. Night is falling again, but not the same way it does back home. This isn't the kind of night that flicks on like a switch. It arrives gradually, like someone dimming the world with great care. The sun lowers behind a curtain of tall, swaying grass, its last golden threads pulling long shadows across the camp. The light turns syrupy, warm, sticky, slow. You sit near the outer edge of the gur ring, watching it all soften. Someone lays out fresh dung patties to dry. A goat sneezes. A woman sings to her baby in a voice so low it's almost humming. The entire camp exhales. And then, silence. Not complete, of course. There are always murmurs. A hoof tapping. Wind fussing with a tent flap. But compared to the busy thrum of the day, the hush is almost ceremonial. You feel like you're in a place designed for quiet, designed to make you notice things like the sound of a kettle just beginning to boil or the rhythmic creak of a saddle being adjusted in the dark. You don't know it yet, but you've just entered your first night shift in a Mongol encampment. This isn't when things stop. It's when they change. The rhythm slows, but the tasks continue. Night is for mending, checking, watching. And for a few hours, it becomes your job too. You're paired with a young man named Orjan. He's quiet, methodical, and thankfully not too bothered by your lack of Mongolian vocabulary. He hands you a lantern, a stick, and points toward the tethered herd. Time to check the animals. The sheep are huddled, quiet. The ponies flick their tails and snort. One of them eyes you suspiciously but doesn't move. The goats, as usual, are chaotic neutral. You do a head count. Orjan double checks. You get the same number. You exchange a nod. Victory. Then comes the night perimeter. Orjan leads the way, his footsteps nearly silent on the packed earth. You do your best to match his rhythm, but your boots still make little crunching sounds that seem to echo for miles. The air is sharp, crisp, almost metallic in your lungs. You pull your cloak tighter. You pass a guard standing with a bough slung across his shoulder, his gaze fixed on the dark horizon. He doesn't move, just blinks slowly and keeps watching. You realize in that moment how vulnerable this life can be. No walls, no alarms, just eyes, ears, and practiced stillness. You and Orjan walk the perimeter in a slow loop. When you return, he gives a satisfied grunt and you both sit down beside a low fire. He offers you dried fruit, something like a raisin, but tougher and sharper. You eat two before your jaw politely gives up. The stars above are almost overwhelming. There's no moon tonight, but that only makes the stars shine harder. You've never seen this many. Not even close. They don't just twinkle, they shimmer, pulse, breathe. You recognize Orion, the Big Dipper, and 1,000 you've never named scattered like ash across the black. Orjan notices your awe and points upward. He traces a line with his finger. Tumri, he says softly. The eternal blue sky. It's more than a god. It's everything. The sky above is the ceiling of life, the witness of all things. To the Mongols, it holds justice, memory, and fate. Genghis Khan himself claimed his authority came from Tingri. The idea that the sky saw all and judged all was both comforting and terrifying. You lie back in the grass, staring up, wondering what Tingri might think of you. A wanderer. A guest. A walking question mark. Historians still debate whether belief in Tengriism was a true faith or a cultural framework for understanding the unpredictable world. But here, under these stars, with the fire low and the world wrapped in silence, it feels like something real. Back at the camp, people are beginning to drift into sleep. Jares glow dimly from the inside with flickers of firelight. You hear a final burst of laughter from a late card game, the jingle of tack as someone checks a saddle one last time, a lullaby drifting from a tent where a baby finally gave up the fight against sleep. You unroll your blanket, pull your hood over your ears, and lie down. But tonight, you don't sleep right away. Instead, you lie there thinking about everything that has changed since that first bowl of arag. You've learned how to chase goats, brace a saddle, fletch an arrow, and fake your way through a marmot dinner. You've earned a carved talisman and the trust of a shamanic smoke ritual. You felt the hush of a Kuriltai and the weight of night on an open steppe. And you're still not entirely sure if you're dreaming. The stars pulse. Your eyelids flicker. Somewhere, just on the edge of hearing, a horse whinnies softly in its sleep. The night deepens. And you drift. Now your dreams are strange. Not scary, not surreal, just stitched together from scraps of everything you've absorbed over the past few days. You see a goat in formal robes offering you a cup of arag. A pony debates military tactics in a council circle. The stars rearrange themselves into yurts. You're pretty sure someone sings a lullaby in the exact tone of a saddle creaking. Then smoke. Real this time. Your eyes open before you understand why. It's not panic smoke. Not fire. Just breakfast being started. Again. And again, your internal organs lodge a gentle complaint. Didn't we just eat marmot in a dream? You sit up slowly, rubbing your neck, which has somehow discovered new ways to hurt. The grass around you is dewy. The air is chilly but kind. No wind today. The smoke from nearby fires rises perfectly straight, blue columns against a cotton-white sky. Today, you're told, will be slow, which in Mongol terms still means you're going to do 7 hours of physical labor, but with longer tea breaks. You're not in charge of anything, but that doesn't stop someone from handing you a wooden mallet and pointing at a gur that needs its support frame resecured. You nod like you understand what's about to happen. You don't. Luckily, you're paired with 2 teenage boys who find your confusion hilarious. They show you how the lattice walls unfold like a concertina, how the roof struts lock into the central ring, and how everything must be perfectly balanced or else you'll wake up in a wool-sandwich sandwich. You're on roof duty. You climb a small stool, position one of the poles, and immediately drop it when a wasp surprises you. The boys erupt into laughter so strong one of them drops his rope. You bow mock formal. They offer you a knot of honeyed curds as an apology. You accept. It's basically sugar-coated cheese. Honestly? Delicious. By midday, the gur is standing tall again. Smoke hole open, door aligned to the south as tradition requires. Always to the south. The north wall, by contrast, is reserved for sacred objects, family heirlooms, religious totems, and sometimes a guest of honor. You've never been invited that far inside someone's home. Yet, while others begin lunch, you're drawn by a low hum near the edge of camp. You follow the sound to a cluster of older women kneeling over a wide, shallow dish filled with ink. They're writing. The ink is made from boiled soot and animal glue. The brushes are fine and delicate, some look like they were crafted from fox hairs. The paper is not paper. It's thin leather, almost translucent. These are letters. And not just any letters. These are messages intended for other nomadic families, maybe days or weeks away. Some are requests. Some are updates. One is a warning. You can't read the script, it flows top to bottom in neat vertical rows, but one of the women explains, in a mix of words and gestures, that many Mongol women were literate. They ran households, advised men, managed trade, and when needed, recorded history. You ask if you can try. They pause. One raises an eyebrow. Then they hand you a scrap and a brush. You dip it in ink and attempt a simple curve. It turns out looking like a particularly lost worm. The women nod encouragingly, then gently take the brush back before you ruin something sacred. You bow in gratitude. They smile. Historians still argue how widespread female literacy was in the Mongol Empire, but archaeological finds suggest it wasn't rare. Some women even managed diplomatic correspondence, dispatches between the Khan and distant courts. It's not quite the image most people picture when they think of a saddle-bound, arrow-shooting steppe warrior. But it's real. Later that afternoon, you're invited to the smith's area, a small, blackened tent surrounded by scrap metal, bellows, and the unmistakable smell of melted iron. The blacksmith is younger than you expect, with soot-smudged cheeks and forearms like carved oak. She's reforging arrowheads. You watch as she heats the metal until it glows orange, then hammers it flat against a smooth stone. The rhythm is hypnotic: clang, turn, hiss in water, repeat. She offers you a turn. You take the hammer, lift it with both hands, and bring it down, right into the dirt. Impressive. She nods like this is entirely expected. Then guides your hands to try again, this time with less enthusiasm, more aim. It's hard work. And loud. And oddly satisfying. By the time you've made one vaguely arrow-shaped object, she's already finished 5. You hand yours over sheepishly. She holds it up, considers it, and shrugs. Maybe good for fishing, she says. You decide to call that a win. Later, as the sun dips again, the camp prepares for a quiet night. Not a feast, not a hunt, just soft conversation, shared food, and a general sense of calm. You sit with a group near the central fire, roasting dumplings stuffed with onion and yak meat. Someone passes a stringed instrument, this time not a morin cooer but a smaller, lute-like dambra. A girl plucks a tune that feels like footsteps, measured, sure, familiar. You ask about the stars again. An elder tells you they're not just lights, they're markers. Guides for navigation, yes, but also for memory. That constellation over there? It's the Archer. The other one? A mother and her child running from a storm. You lean back on your elbows again, eyes up. And for the first time since arriving, you don't feel like a guest. You feel like someone who belongs. Morning again, but something's changed. You feel it before you see it. The stillness is deeper. Not sleepy, but waiting. You sit up slowly, blanket slipping off your shoulders, and glance around. The usual rustlings of the camp are there, the soft cough of a pony, the clink of a kettle lid, but there's a subtle current beneath it all. A messenger arrived late last night. You didn't hear him, but everyone else did. News travels differently here. Not with panic or ceremony, but through motion. You see it in the way people walk, brisk, purposeful, no wasted gestures. The camp is shifting again. But this time, not just physically. It's shifting mentally. A decision is coming. You rise, stretch, and make your way toward the cooking fires. A pot of thick porridge bubbles over embers. Someone hands you a bowl without needing to ask. You eat quietly, half listening to snippets of conversation. Words like river, enemy, supply, and something that might mean treaty pass through the air like birds overhead. Soon, you're called to help dismantle part of the camp, not all of it, just a few jars. You move quickly, shoulders remembering the rhythm from last time. Felt off. Ropes loosened. Walls folded. Poles sorted. This time, it feels smoother. Your hands don't need instructions anymore. But then you're redirected, not to pack, but to deliver. You're handed a leather pouch, tightly bound, and told to take it to the Khan's quarter. Your escort is a young man in blue-trimmed robes who doesn't talk, but walks fast. You follow, heart-thumping. This is no small errand. You pass guards who nod once and part. The main gur looms larger up close, ornate, clean, with polished brass ornaments and white felt walls brushed to brightness. You duck inside after your guide. The temperature changes immediately. Warmer, quieter, thicker somehow. The scent is different too, cedar smoke, aged parchment, and something floral. Inside, 5 men sit in a semicircle. 1 woman, 2, standing at a writing table. The Khan is not among them, but his presence is everywhere, his armor on a rack, his bow and saddle hanging from pegs, his seal laid in a velvet pouch beside a bowl of ink. You kneel, offer the pouch, and bow deeply. No one says anything. 1 man opens it, unrolls the parchment, and reads silently. After a moment, he murmurs something to the woman, who nods and begins copying the message onto fresh hide with smooth, steady strokes. They dismiss you with a nod. You back out, heart still hammering. Outside, the camp has shifted again. Word has spread. The Kuriltai is reconvening. You watch as people gather, nobles, elders, commanders, and even a few skilled traders. Horses are tethered at a respectful distance. The crowd settles into a low hum. This isn't like yesterday's council. It's bigger, sharper. Today, they'll decide whether to move. And not just the camp, but the entire direction of the horde. North means rivers and timber. South means deserts and silk roads. East means enemies. West? Opportunity or war. You sit at the fringe, head bowed. You're not part of the council, but you're allowed to listen. It's an honor just to sit close enough to feel the weight of it. A man speaks, calm, assured, pointing at a map drawn in ash on stretched leather. He argues for patience. Another interrupts. He wants movement, action. He fears stagnation. A third suggests splitting forces. The debate lasts all morning. Sometimes loud, sometimes hushed. It's not always polite, but it's focused. Respect isn't about silence, it's about sharp honesty. You watch the Khan enter quietly, take his place without announcement, and listen. Just listen. He speaks only once, briefly, at the very end. His voice is low. The council nods. Decision made. The horde will move west. No one cheers. There's no dramatic flourish. Just a ripple of motion, people standing, rolling up maps, saddling horses, passing word from one end of camp to the other. You're swept into it, helping where you can. One moment you're tying bundles, the next you're securing dried meat to a supply sled. Everything moves with clarity. The sense of purpose is electric. You ask someone why west. He shrugs. New land, he says. Then, after a pause, new test. It's not expansion for glory. It's expansion for survival. Growth. Challenge. The Mongol Empire didn't sprawl because of greed, it sprawled because it could. And because sitting still for too long felt like dying slowly. Historians still argue whether Genghis Khan's legacy was about conquest or continuity. But here, living in the rhythm of his people, you feel the answer isn't simple. It never was. As the sun drops, the camp is already half disassembled. Fires are low. Voices are soft. But the energy is unmistakable. A journey begins tomorrow. You'll ride with the supply crew. Not the warriors, not the scouts, but the backbone. The heartbeat. The ones who carry the food, tools, medicine messages. You're not a guest anymore. You're part of the horde. And that realization doesn't frighten you. It steadies you. The last night before a long ride feels different. No one says it out loud, but the silence hums with it. Jairs are quieter. Fires are smaller. People speak in shorter sentences, as if saving their breath for the miles ahead. You feel it too, that tightness in the chest, that half-anxious, half-excited weight that comes before a change. You sit near your now half-packed blanket, sipping tea that tastes faintly of mint and charred wood. The air smells like leather and anticipation. Tomorrow you ride. Tonight, though, you rest, but not before one final task. Packing the supply cart. Yours is small, hitched to a short-legged but determined-looking yak. It's covered in hide and tied with ropes that probably have names and emotional attachments at this point. Your partner for this mission is a middle-aged woman with silver streaks in her braid and arms stronger than most men you've met. Her name is Tura. She barely speaks, but she moves with the confidence of someone who's packed carts during hailstorms and still made it to camp early. Together, you load dried meat, bundles of herbs, spare hide sheets, and dozens of tightly wrapped balls of wool. You ask what the wool is for. Everything, she says. Fire starter, saddle pad, bandage, pillow, Baby toy. You believe her. You also pack water skins. Many. Some are coated in beeswax to keep them cool. Others are carried simply as leather pouches. You ask how long the route will be. Tara just shrugs. Long enough. That's not foreboding. That's just Mongol practicality. By the time the cart is loaded, the sky has turned navy blue. The stars have blinked awake again, scattered in wild patterns you've started to recognize. The archer, the bear, the eagle that guards souls. You take a few minutes to sit beside your yak and rub its neck. Tolerates this, barely. Nearby, others finish their final tasks. Checking tack, braiding cords, tucking talismans into saddle pouches. One boy sharpens a blade by the light of a lantern. Another carefully seals a letter, kissing the folded edge before tucking it into a pocket. It hits you then, gently but completely. Everyone here is prepared for a journey without knowing exactly where it ends. You fall asleep earlier than usual. You don't dream. You just rest, surrounded by sounds you've come to recognize. Fire popping, horses shifting weight. A distant song barely carried on the wind. When morning breaks, it's not with trumpets or banners. It's with the quiet coordination of hundreds of people acting in sync. You rise, dress, roll your blanket, and get to your yak. Tura is already there, readying one of your knots. She doesn't scold, just redoes it with a single, efficient twist. You nod. She nods. The cart begins to roll. You ride beside it at first, legs stiff and protesting. But they remember. The body adapts even when the brain hasn't caught up. The sun lifts higher. The horizon stays stubbornly far. But the grass sways, and the land opens like a map being unrolled just for you. Hours pass. The steppe changes subtly. Less green, more rocks, occasional clumps of trees. A dry riverbed that winds like a scar. You spot eagle nests in craggy outcrops. One eagle soars above, wings outstretched like sails. Around midday, the caravan halts near a wide patch of grass. Grazing time, rest time. You eat dried lamb and chew on a strip of root that tastes like black licorice and regret. Still, it keeps you awake. Tura shows you how to mend a split cart while using a wedge of wood and a leather strap. She doesn't explain with words, just gestures, lets you try, and slaps your hand away when you do it wrong. Then shows you again, slower. You get it the second time. In the late afternoon, the wind picks up. The grasses lean like they're all listening to something you can't hear yet. And then you see them, a group of riders in the distance. At first, they're just blurs on the horizon. Then hooves, then shapes, then people, 12 of them. Scouts. They ride up, speak to the lead commander, and peel off again. No panic, just information. Later, you hear the word fortified whispered. Another merchant. Someone mutters tribute. You realize you're moving not just for new land, but toward negotiation. Possibly confrontation. Possibly both. You don't feel afraid. You feel included. The caravan moves again, slower now. The terrain shifts into gentle hills. Your yak grumbles but keeps going. Tura hums a tune with no words, tapping the rhythm on the cartwood. By sunset, the group has reached a shallow valley. It's chosen as the night camp. Jairs are not built, only tents this time, lightweight, fast to pack. You sleep on your rolled blanket beneath the open sky. No stories, no songs, just breath, grass, stars. You have walked beside people who live without walls, without clocks, without borders that don't move. And now you are one of them, even if only for a while. Dawn slides in sideways, quiet, sly, and golden. You stir before the call goes out, blinking up at the sky as it shifts from velvet blue to a warm amber gray. Around you, figures rise like ghosts from the grass, stretching, wrapping cloaks tighter, checking gear by feel. No one speaks much. This kind of morning isn't about noise. It's about motion. You rise, pat the yak, which ignores you, and help Tura hitch the cart again. She hands you a piece of flatbread folded around something dense and savory. Tastes like yesterday's lamb and today's hope. You eat while walking. The caravan moves again. Today feels longer. Not because of the distance, though that's considerable, but because of the weight in the air. There's talk of reaching a river, of encountering a border outpost. Traders, soldiers, perhaps even a fortress. It's the sort of talk that floats above the group like mist. Not quite rumor. Not yet certainty. You pass a formation of boulders that look like giant sleeping animals. One has a carving in it, weather-worn, almost erased. Someone tells you it marks the site of an old victory. Or a grave. Or both. A falcon passes overhead, gliding with lazy confidence. The children wave at it. One tosses a piece of meat into the air, as if to offer tribute. Mid-morning, you walk beside a herder who smells strongly of garlic and horse sweat. He tells you stories of a time when his grandfather rode through a forest so dense the trees sang when the wind passed. You ask what kind of song. He shrugs. A sad one. There's a strange kind of magic to Mongol storytelling. Facts, legends, dreams, and metaphors swirl together like tea leaves at the bottom of a cracked cup. You're never quite sure what's true, but somehow all of it feels real. Your cart hits a rock. The left wheel jumps. Tura curses gently and checks the axle. Nothing broken. You both breathe again. By midday, the horizon shifts. You see it in the color first, a strip of green denser than the surrounding grassland. Then the shimmer of water. The river. You can't help but feel something tighten in your chest. It's wide, slow, and murky, but it cuts the landscape cleanly. A border, a test, a threshold. You stop just short of it, gathering near a stand of stunted trees. Scouts ride ahead. One returns quickly. Structures, he says. Flags. Smoke. You glance at the others. No one looks surprised. Just alert. A council is called, not large, not formal, but swift. The leaders discuss whether to camp or cross, to speak or wait. Someone suggests sending a gift ahead. A bolt of cloth is offered. Carved bough. Salted meat. You and Tura are asked to deliver the offerings. No guards. No armed escort. Just you, a cart, and a river. You approach slowly. You can see the outpost now, wooden walls maybe 10 feet high, banners snapping in the breeze. A few figures stand at the top, watching. Still, you stop short, hold up your hands. No weapons, just bundles of wrapped cloth and food. The figures watch for a beat longer. Then one nods. A gate creaks. You move forward. They don't speak your language. You don't speak theirs. But you bow. They bow. The exchange is wordless, ritualized. One man examines the bow. Another sniffs the meat and grins. A woman approaches with a small basket. She offers it to you. Inside, dried fruits, a few silver coins, and a piece of bright blue glass. A token of friendship, or trade, or both. You bow again. Retreat slowly. The gates shut behind you. When you return to the caravan, everyone is watching. You hold up the basket. Tura lifts the glass. The crowd nods. It's a good sign. Historians still argue whether Mongol diplomacy was driven by trade, intimidation, or long-game conquest. But what you just witnessed, it felt like neighbors trying to understand each other in a language older than speech. The group camps near the river that night. No chairs, no tents, just blankets, fires, and the low rustle of reeds. You wash your hands in the river, letting the mud curl away from your fingers. Feels like rinsing off a life you used to have. Later, someone sings a song about crossing water, about how rivers remember the names of those who drown and those who return. You stare at the glass shard from the basket, now tucked into your belt pouch. You wonder which kind of name the river might give you. The river behind you feels like a chapter turned. You cross it early the next morning, no ceremony, no speech. Just one foot in front of the other, cart wheels splashing through shallows, hoofs thudding against muddy banks. On the far side, the land tilts upward, rocky and dry. The steppe gives way to scrub and sun-bleached grass. It's harder walking, dustier. The wind bites more, but the mood of the caravan has shifted. There's a quiet satisfaction in the air, a feeling of progress. Even Tura, who rarely smiles, seems slightly more relaxed. She hums occasionally, a tune so faint it might be imagined. The kind of tune you'd sing to a stubborn yak or a sleepy child. Or yourself. You're assigned to help repair a cracked axle. Not yours, another supply cart. The wood has splintered, likely from yesterday's bumpy descent near the river. You and two others wedge stones beneath the frame and begin to work. Slow, meticulous. You wedge, bind, brace, rebind. Takes most of the morning, but by midday the cart rolls again. The others thank you with a slab of dried apricot and a clean rag to wipe your hands. A gesture that feels, somehow, deeply personal. As you continue, the landscape opens wider. Sparse trees, crumbling hills, the occasional ruin, mud brick remains of an old outpost, now half swallowed by grass. One structure has a circular hole where a roof used to be. You peer inside and find nothing but wind and shadow. Someone beside you mutters, "Ghosts live in corners." You don't ask which corners. A short while later, the caravan pauses. You're at a crossroads of sorts. Not literal roads, there are none, but two distinct tracks. One leads into a narrow valley, shaded and cool, with uncertain footing. The other swings wide over the hills, longer but exposed. A quick council is held. You're close enough now to recognize the rhythm. People speak in turns. No one shouts. The Khan himself stands back, listening. A scout reports that the valley is more direct but has had landslides before. The hill path? Safer. Slower. Harder. The vote is nearly unanimous. The horde will take the long road. That afternoon, you begin the climb. The hill path isn't steep, but it's relentless. The cart groans. The yak groans louder. You find yourself pushing more than walking. Tura says nothing, but once, just once. She rests her hand on your shoulder. Just for a moment. Just long enough to mean something. At the top, you pause. And there it is. The view. Miles of rolling plains. Clusters of trees. A distant shimmer that might be another river. Or a mirage. The wind here is strong. Pushes at your back like a silent encouragement. You sit down beside a patch of yellow flowers and let your lungs fill. There's no landmark. No statue. No banner. But still, you feel like you've arrived somewhere. Historians often debate the psychological toll of constant movement. Was the nomadic life exhausting? Liberating? Somewhere in between? You think about how your legs ache, but also about how your mind feels clearer than it has in years. Down the slope now, carefully. The path here is slippery with gravel. You nearly fall twice. Your yak nearly falls once. Tara falls 0 times. Of course, that night's camp is set earlier than usual. Fires are lit. Water is found in a rock basin. The mood is tired but warm. You sit beside the fire and tend to your blistered feet. Someone offers you a salve made from pine sap and animal fat. Smells like boiled trees, but it works. You eat a meal of stew thickened with barley and laugh for 10 full seconds when someone drops their spoon and chases it across the grass like it's a wild animal. You laugh harder when the spoon wins. After dinner, an elder tells a story about a man who rode his horse so fast he outran the sunset, only to find that time waited for no one on the other side. You're not sure what the lesson is, but the firelight flickers just right, and the stars blink back on like a promise. You sit up a while after everyone else is asleep. Not because you're not tired. You are. But because the world is too quiet, too big, too beautiful to waste. You stare at the flames until your eyes sting. Then you finally lay down. Back on the blanket. Hands behind your head. Sky above. Your legs are sore. Your arms ache. But your heart feels full. Today you ride. Not walk, not stumble behind a yak, not jog beside a cart ride. The kind of ride that would have terrified you a week ago but now feels almost inevitable. Your mount is smaller than most horses you've seen, shaggy and thick-necked, with a temperament somewhere between loyal farm dog and mildly judgmental uncle. His name, you're told, is Zhao, which, depending on pronunciation, means luck or accident. You decide not to ask which one the owner intended. A teenage boy helps you saddle up. Mongol saddles are high-backed and stiff, more wooden bench than cushion. You brace yourself and swing one leg over only to misjudge the height and land with the grace of a collapsing yurt. The boy stifles a laugh. You pretend not to notice. Zal, to his credit, does not bolt. You're given a short riding crop, not for striking but for signaling. The reins are thin but strong, made from braided horsehair. There are no stirrups you'd recognize, just short leathers that demand you crouch more than sit. It's less cowboy gallop and more hover politely above horse. You shift, settle, and begin. The caravan moves forward in a long line. From your higher vantage, you can finally see it all: the carts, the riders, the livestock, the elders bundled in felt, and the children bouncing inside sacks like potatoes. It's not fast. It's not loud. But it moves with purpose. With weight. Like a single body with 1,000 feet. The terrain grows stranger. Sandy patches interrupt the grass. The wind carries a fine grit that clings to your teeth and eyebrows. You pass a stretch of ground littered with smooth, white stones, possibly a dry riverbed. Possibly something older. Tura, walking beside her cart, calls up to you. This used to be a lake. You look around. No water in sight. Just wind and sky. You nod anyway. Zal keeps pace easily, snorting every so often, chewing the bit when bored. You talk to him, mostly nonsense. He ignores you with dignity. By midday, you're more comfortable in the saddle. Your knees stop screaming. Your back starts only a polite whimper. You even manage to help redirect a wayward sheep without falling off. You stop near a rock formation shaped like a crouching lion. The group breaks for rest. Tura tosses you a chunk of roasted root vegetable wrapped in cloth. It's warm, peppery, and surprisingly satisfying. A trader sits nearby, cleaning a flute made from bone. You ask if he'll play. He nods once and starts a slow melody. It winds like smoke, curling in on itself, rising, falling. You close your eyes. The music changes suddenly, faster, sharper. You open your eyes to see another rider approaching, waving his arm in a signal that even you now recognize. News. The caravan halts. People gather. The rider speaks quickly to a small circle of leaders. The mood tightens but doesn't turn fearful. You catch fragments, bandits, scouts, campsite burned. Still, no panic. The group adjusts course slightly, moving farther south toward a rocky ridge that offers better visibility. You ride beside the new scout for a while. His name is Batar. He tells you that the bandits aren't local. Too clean, he says. Too soft. You ask if he's worried. He shrugs. They ride for gold. We ride for life. We'll see who's hungrier. Later, as you make camp in the shadow of the ridge, the air cools quickly. The rocks hold the day's heat and let it go in slow pulses like quiet breathing. You unsaddle Zal, brush his flanks, and whisper a quiet thank you. He farts. You take that as a sign of mutual understanding. Dinner is thin soup and bread. You sit with Batar and the trader. They share stories of near captures, close calls, long escapes. You nod along, unsure how much is real and how much is embroidered. When the stars appear again, you feel a shift, not in the sky, but in you. You're no longer checking the stars for signs of direction. You're checking them like landmarks. Familiar. Friendly. Yours. As others sleep, you stay up to help the night watch. You walk the ridge with a bow slung across your back. No arrows yet, you're not ready. But your eyes are sharper now. Your ears pick up sounds more easily. You spot a jackrabbit dart across the rocks. You hear a nightbird calling low. And somewhere behind you, the soft crunch of Tura's boots in the dust. She passes you without a word. Just a glance. Just enough to say, I see you. I know you see this too. You keep walking. The horizon is black. The stars are bright. The wind is cold. The world is huge. But tonight, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels open. Like something you can cross. You dream of wheels. They turn slowly, not the clunky, splintering kind you've pushed through mud and rocks, but smooth, silent ones that roll endlessly across the steppe. In your dream, they carry not carts but memories. Campfires. Songs. The smell of milk tea. The weight of the bough in your hand. A goat you will never forgive. You wake before dawn, not from noise, but from stillness. Everyone is asleep. Even the animals rest. The fire has burned low to its last embers, just barely warm against your side. You sit up, adjust your cloak, and take in the stars one more time just to be sure they're still yours. They are. You help Tura prep the cart early. She's already awake, of course. She hands you a hunk of leftover bread and a boiled root the color of old copper. Breakfast of champions. You eat it slowly as the sun rises, painting the land in pale gold and long lavender shadows. Today's route cuts across an open plain pocked with shrubs and low-lying mist. There's a feeling in the air, not fear, exactly, but wariness. Everyone's more alert. Scouts have reported movement, riders, possibly the same bandits mentioned days before. So the caravan tightens. Riders fan out. Everyone moves with quiet efficiency. Even the children are quieter. You're asked to stay near the carts today. Not because you're incapable, though let's be honest, you're still the only person here who fell off a stationary horse, but because they trust you now. They want you where things matter. You walk beside Zal, who seems to have appointed himself your occasional ride and full-time judge of character. Tura whistles occasionally to the yak, clicks her tongue at the wheels, and hums to herself when she thinks no one's listening. Mid-morning, you pass a formation of jagged rocks that resemble broken teeth. The path narrows. Visibility drops. You grip the riding crop tightly even though you're not riding. Then movement. 3 riders appear on the ridge above, just silhouettes at first. They don't advance. Don't retreat. Just watch. You feel the tension ripple through the group like a breeze. Hands move toward bows. Horses tense. Tura mutters something you can't translate but feel in your bones. Then the riders turn. They vanish behind the ridge. The caravan keeps moving. No chase. No signal. Just resumed breathing. Scouts, Tura says. Measuring. They'll decide if we're worth the trouble. You nod. She spits into the dust and adds, we're not. Lunch is brief. Everyone eats while still walking. The arag tastes sourer than usual. Someone says that's a sign of a storm coming. Another says it just wasn't stirred right. A third shrugs and drinks anyway. The trail slopes downward now into a basin flanked by scrubby trees. You spot a dried riverbed and the remnants of a fire circle, blackened stones, scraps of bone, a few feathers. Not from your group. Older. Abandoned. You keep walking. Mid-afternoon brings rain. Not the kind that soaks you through, but a fine mist that seems to cling to your skin and clothes like second thoughts. The wool keeps you warm. The felt keeps the carts dry. You pull your hood tighter and lean into the wind. And then, like a vision, a structure. Stone walls, low and crumbling. A watchtower. Possibly abandoned. Possibly not. You approach carefully along with a few riders and elders. It's clearly old, half of it fallen in, roof long gone, but the well inside is intact. And the area offers cover. Decision made. You'll camp here. The rest of the day is spent setting up not just shelter, but defense. Wagons circle tight. Horses are hobbled closer to the center. Firewood is stacked, water barrels refilled, bows checked and rechecked. You're asked to stand a fire watch tonight. The third shift, the one just before sunrise, the coldest one. You nod. Proud, nervous, mostly honored. Dinner is hearty, hot stew, a new batch of bortsog, and a strange dish involving pickled onions and crushed grain that might actually be the best thing you've eaten yet. Afterward, the mood lifts. A few songs are sung. Someone tells a joke about a 3-legged goat outwitting a Mongol general. Even Tura smiles. You try to rest before your shift. It's hard. Your mind keeps replaying the ridge. The riders. The well. The vast openness around you that feels both like freedom and exposure. But when your time comes, you rise. You sit near the edge of the cart ring, bow across your lap, fire crackling low. The stars are veiled by thin clouds. The wind hisses through dry grass like distant whispers. You wait. You watch. And you realize something. You are not just surviving this. You are part of it. This night. This silence. This stillness. It includes you now. And whatever comes next, you'll meet it with your eyes open. The fire has gone to coals now, low and steady, glowing like the last pulse of something ancient. You sit with the bow across your lap, trying not to shift too much, even though your toes are steadily losing sensation. The third shift always feels longest. It's too late for sleep, too early for breakfast, and too quiet to keep your thoughts from wandering. You count stars. You scan the ridge. You hum softly. Nothing moves. And yet everything does. The wind picks up slightly, pulling through the grasses in threads. You hear the occasional snort from the horses, the creak of leather, the whisper of something brushing the stone wall behind you, just a bat, probably. Hopefully. Then a figure moves near the fire. It's Tura. She doesn't speak. Just sits beside you and adds a small log to the coals. She holds a piece of cloth in her lap, dark blue, embroidered with white thread. She works by firelight, stitching calmly, rhythmically. You don't ask what she's making. You know better now. If she wants to tell you, she will. After a while, she says, without looking up, first night watch is the hardest. Third night watch is when you become one of us. You don't reply. You're not sure you can. She finishes her thread, knots it cleanly, folds the cloth, and hands it to you. It's a small pouch stitched with a pattern that resembles swirling wind, or possibly the ridges of the steppe viewed from above. It smells faintly of smoke and milkweed. Inside is something hard and warm from her hands. You peek. A stone? Smooth, oblong, pinkish. For luck, she says simply. Then she stands and walks away. You hold it for a long time. Eventually, dawn lifts the darkness, not suddenly but in gentle strokes. First the shadows fade, then the sky turns charcoal, then violet, then pale gold. By the time you can see your own breath in the early chill, the rest of the camp begins to stir. The day starts with repairs. One of the carts has lost a wheel cap. You help hammer it back in place, wiping grease and grit from your palms with a square of felt. You're trusted now. No one checks your knots. No one hovers while you secure the lashings. You've moved from outsider to quiet participant. Breakfast is hard bread soaked in warm milk sprinkled with dried herbs. You eat while standing, one foot resting on a log. Across the fire, a small boy tries to feed his goat a hot dumpling. The goat is deeply uninterested. The boy is deeply insistent. Today, the caravan splits temporarily. A small detachment, including you and Tura, is sent ahead to scout a route through the next valley. It's narrower, rockier, and less predictable, but it shaves off nearly 2 days of travel if it's passable. You load lightly. No jares. Just essentials: food, water, tools, a small cooking hearth. The carts are left behind. You ride Zal, now familiar, still mildly judgmental but cooperative. Tura rides beside you, straight-backed, silent except for the occasional whistle to her yak. The route curves through a narrow ravine, its walls high and sun-bleached, etched with wind erosion and the occasional bird nest. At one point, you stop while a rock slide is cleared, 3 men pushing aside a boulder the size of a sheep while someone else swears rhythmically in a dialect you don't know. The path eventually opens into a valley. Wider than expected. Greener. And at the far end, ruins. You ride closer. Stone walls. Cracked domes. Possibly an old Persian caravanserai or maybe a seasonal fortress long abandoned. The architecture is different from anything you've seen so far: curved arches, low platforms, fragments of faded tile under the dust. It's broken, yes, but also beautiful. You dismount and walk through it, brushing your hand across a stone ledge worn smooth by time. A clay jar, shattered but recognizable, rests near the corner of one room. You find a carving almost rubbed out. A lion, maybe? Or a horse with too much imagination. Tura says, "We camp here." You nod. It's too perfect not to. That night, the group sets a small fire in the courtyard. The wind barely reaches here. The stars are sharp again. Someone finds a dry root in the ruins and adds it to the flame. It cracks, sending a gust of spicy sweet smoke into the air. You cook simple fare: boiled grains, shreds of meat, a wild onion someone dug from the path. The meal is humble. The silence afterward is humbler. Tura finally speaks. This place was part of a trade line. My grandfather stopped here once. He said they sang to the animals at night so the horses wouldn't spook. You listen. The fire pops once. She adds, "I'm glad it still stands." You look up. The stars wheel overhead. Somewhere in the darkness, Zal snorts and stamps. You fall asleep in the curve of an old wall, your new pouch clutched in one hand. In the distance, the wind brushes across the open steppe like a lullaby. You wake with the sunlight spilling over crumbling stone. The ruins catch the light in strange ways. Shadows nestle in unexpected corners, while the tops of the old walls blaze golden like sunlit bone. It's quiet in that heavy kind of way that makes you feel like you're being watched, but not in danger. More like the past is leaning over your shoulder to see what you're doing with its house. Tura is already awake, of course, boiling tea over a tiny hearth she built from broken bricks and a dented kettle. She offers you a bowl without a word. Tastes earthy, bitter, and somehow necessary. You help pack. There's not much to carry, just enough for this scouting group. But the process is now second nature. Saddle the animals, tie down the bundles, recheck the knots, tug the yak's ear gently to remind him it's time to go. He glares. You're not friends, but you're not strangers either. The caravan resumes its slow weave through the valley. The land begins to change again. Rocks give way to sand. The shrubs thin out. The steppe becomes dustier, drier, wider. You're entering what someone calls the edgelands. Not quite desert, not quite grassland. A border place. You ask Tura where you are. She just says, "Farther than most people go." You ride all day. The sky stretches endlessly. Clouds like distant ships float across it. The heat rises gently, never fierce, but constant. Just enough to sting your eyes and make your scarf feel suddenly more like armor. At one point, you see bones. Not scattered, arranged. A circle of small white ribs, half buried in the dust. Animal, probably. But something about the shape gives you pause. You don't stop, neither does anyone else. By midday, you come upon a cairn. Stones stacked carefully into a low mound. A wooden pole juts from the center, and tied to it is a strip of blue cloth, frayed and flapping. You've seen these before. Ovu, they're called. Sacred waypoints. Travelers add a stone or token as they pass, to honor the spirits and ask for protection. You dismount, pick up a pebble, and place it on the pile. Tara watches you, nods. She adds a bone instead, polished, tiny, maybe a bird's. Then the others follow. One leaves a coin, another a lock of hair. One simply presses his palm to the pole and whispers something too quiet to catch. You ride on, and no one speaks for an hour. In the late afternoon, you stop beneath a twisted juniper. Its bark is cracked and red, its roots exposed like claws grasping the dirt. You rest in its shade, chewing on dried apricot and sipping water that tastes faintly of leather pouch and sunshine. You ask a fellow rider what lies ahead. He gestures vaguely. More sky. You nod. Accept it. As the sun begins its descent, the scouting party comes upon something unexpected. Tracks. Multiple riders. Bare hooves. Not Mongol. You dismount. Kneel. Press your fingers into the grooves in the dust. They're recent. Within a day, maybe less. Tura confirms with a glance. Could be traders, she offers. Then, with a flat tone, could not. You don't change course. You ride forward. The sun drops low. The shadows stretch. Your horse breathes harder. You grip the reins tighter, less for fear and more for focus. Then, at last, a ridge. You climb it slowly, side by side with the others. And at the top, you see it. In the distance, a camp. Not yours. Larger than expected. Well organized. Flags. Fires. Lines of horses. Smoke curling steadily into the amber sky. You count at least 30 tents, maybe more. Someone whistles low. That's no bandit camp. You stay low behind the ridge as the leaders confer. There's tension, yes, but not panic. These people plan. They assess. Then the decision. Return and report. You nod, relieved and disappointed at once. You wanted answers. You'll have to settle for the right questions. The group turns back, but slower. Watching, listening. That night, camp is made in a dry stream bed, well hidden from view. Fires are small. Conversations even smaller. You're on second watch. You sit beside the saddles, wrapped in your cloak, Zal grazing nearby like nothing happened. The stars blink on again, late, cautious, but clear. You think of the cairn, the tokens, the silence of the ruins, and you begin to understand something quietly enormous. This land was never empty. It's just been waiting. You shift your weight, rest your chin on your hands, and listen to the wind. It sings to you now, not a song you know, but one you've earned. The final leg begins before first light. You're up before the stars fade, boots stiff with dew, the sky still bruised purple at the edges. Tura's already packed. You help roll the last blanket, sling the bag, check the leather bindings on the yak. Everything feels heavier today, but not because of the load. It's because this is the end of the road for now. The group rides back along the ridge, silent, the early light spilling sideways through the valley. The same wind as before, but cooler now. The kind of wind that carries goodbyes. You're not returning to the main caravan yet. Not directly. First, you'll stop to mark the new route on a felt map using bits of charred wood and a string drawn tight between rocks. You watch as a rider sketches the line with practiced speed, measuring valleys by hoof count and hilltops by time of day shade. It's not GPS. It's better. It's earned. Tura crouches beside the map and presses her thumbprint into a corner. Her seal. Her memory. Her mark. You're asked to add yours too. You hesitate, then press your palm flat against the felt. It leaves no ink, no signature. But it's there. You feel it. The return is steady. You pass the cairn again, now with a few more stones, a feather tied to the pole. The blue cloth flutters harder today. It's almost smiling. You tip your head as you go by. The group rides until the afternoon when the horizon finally offers something familiar, movement. Your caravan. Still rolling. Still growing. Still there. The scouts are greeted with nods, quick exchanges, quiet applause. Not the loud kind. Just enough to say you made it. You catch glimpses of the people you've come to know, Batar sharpening a knife, the old woman twisting wool into thread, the boy with the goat, still insisting it eat cooked food, the blacksmith tending a fire. You dismount, legs wobbling slightly, and stretch. Zal walks a few paces, then drops into the dust like a sack of laundry. You grin and pat his side. Then, without fanfare, you're pulled back into the rhythm. You help unpack. Stack firewood. Stir a pot. No one tells you what to do, you just move. Belonging isn't announced here. It's understood. That night, a feast. Not because of the scouting, or the ruins, or the mapped route, but because a nearby herd of antelope finally strayed too close and a rider brought one down cleanly. The meat is shared. The mood lifts. You sit beside Tura and eat strips of grilled meat dipped in salt and garlic. It tastes like smoke and triumph. Someone plays the Morin Kur again, soft and slow. The song curls into the night like breath. Later, as the fire dies and the stars return, you find yourself near the outer edge of camp. Watching. Breathing. You think about everything you've carried. Not just supplies, but moments. The carved bone. The song sung to sleeping horses. The firelit council. The arrow you fumbled, the marmot you survived, the saddle you finally didn't fall off of. The pouch Tura gave you is still in your belt. You press your hand against it. Still there. Still warm. You lie down on your blanket, and this time, it feels like home. Not a permanent one. Not a walled one. But a home made of sky. Of silence. Of shared work and quiet trust. You close your eyes, and let it all go. Let everything slow now. Let your breathing soften, your shoulders melt, your thoughts drift like dust rising gently from the steppe. You've walked. You've ridden. You've listened to the wind and counted stars. You've followed paths with no names, ridden beside people who speak more with glances than words, and discovered that the quietest days can hold the deepest echoes. You've helped pack a home and build one again. You've passed cairns and sacred stones. Shared food, shared silence. Earned a place not through grand gestures, but through small, steady steps. Feel the weight of that stillness now. Not empty. Full. The fire is low. The camp is resting. All around you, the animals shift gently in their sleep, the wind brushes across canvas and grass, and the night sky wraps around everything like a woolen cloak. You're warm. You're safe. You're not watching anymore. You're part of the story now. So breathe. Let your eyelids fall. And as your thoughts fade, let the rhythm of the steppe carry you quietly, steadily into rest. You've arrived.